Sunday, 10 games. Old veterans putting their names back out there. Players that were interested in doing absolutely nothing. Oh yeah, it's the NBA. It's Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and this show is a terrible strain on the animator's wrist. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Also, go to LockedOnDaily.com and find the best newsletter for your favorite team that is free. You can sign up. You get all that info stuffed into your mailbox 5 days a week. LockedOnDaily.com. Double banging over here would be great. A thumb, a subscribe. Let's try and hit that 85k. We're looking for 90, but we'll slow down a bit. It's fine. It's fine. We know where we're at in the season. Let's head to 85. Get those subs up. All right. 10 games on Sunday. Show's already done today. We've done the Monday preview show. Go check that out. Did the waiver wire show in general. Check that out. But we are here now. There are 7 weeks left in the entirety of the NBA regular season. 6 weeks left for a large chunk of you in fantasy, which includes playoffs. Maybe 4 weeks left for many of you, including playoffs. We are at the stage, for a lot of you, of rest of season stash not mattering. And we've got to start, and I'll keep saying it because it is important that we keep thinking about it. Roto, different story. But we've got to start moving into, we're in the end game. We've got to start looking at what happens now. How do I get value here? I don't want to hold on to this guy and wait and go, you never know. Well, most of the time, we're just about trying to get extra things happening and also understand the rhythms of the NBA season. You will get spoken to through social media, regular media, audio, video, written form of stuff. Actually, you know what? I'll do that. I'll do that part in a second because I did have it on a little rundown. So we'll talk about that in a sec. It is World Bartender Day. So, whoever your favorite bartender is, maybe it's me. Here's a question for you guys, for you to answer. Do you think I ever worked as a bartender? Drop that in the comments. It is World Bartender Day, so shout out to the bartenders. Do you think I ever worked as a bartender? All right, so what I want to look at is some news. We'll start with this one, and I've been saying it all season. This is not a surprise to any of you who have listened to any piece of content around the Philadelphia 76ers that I've spoken about, any mock drafts that I've spoken about. I was adamant. I will not draft Joel Embiid in round 1. I said his knee is rooted. I said it is done. You couldn't have paid me to trade for him. And so inevitably everyone asks, hey, would you actually trade this guy for Embiid? No, I would not. And I don't care how stupid it looked at the time. And then today I came out with in one of the shows, it was sort of a flippant comment. I thought, this might be a good pull quote for a graphic, right? Where I said, I am waiting to wake up, I'll paraphrase myself, for the Shams Charania news bomb that says Joel Embiid is having surgery out for the season. Literally 2 hours later, Shams is out, the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid are exploring other options because his knee is not responding. Surgery is one of those options and we'll see what happens. Okay. That isn't exactly what I said. I said I'm waiting for him to say his season is over. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. How many games is he going to play, do you think? Will Embiid play another game this season? He's officially listed questionable next game. He didn't practice. He's no way he is playing. Now, you could go and rush to add Gershon Yabusele. His knee is also in pretty bad straits. And we've seen time and time again, Yabusele will have a big one, giggity, and then he'll also have a poor game. And it's a 50-50 proposition for him when Embiid is out. Now, when Embiid is in, you've no business rostering Yabusele. But I think Embiid's done. I think it's over, honestly. I think that it's not happening at all this season. And I don't care what procedure he has done now, I still won't touch him next season. Been very clear on this. So you can add Gershon. It does help Quentin Grimes. Just more shots. Does it speed up a maxi shutdown? Paul George shutdown? Well, we'll talk about that in a sec. Good news in Minnesota. Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, there's a chance they return within the next 4 games on this road trip, so keep an eye on that. That will obviously impact other players. Jalen Clark is getting a start today for the Wolves. Alexander Walker, but then the big ones are going to be Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, the Wizard of Noz. You don't drop them yet, and we'll just see what happens. Yeah, of course, you probably don't drop Reid at all, but we'll just see what happens with them. The Jazz, I don't. From day one of the season with this team, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. How do I make sense of John Collins' role and Colin Sexton's role and any of it? I couldn't make sense of any of it. And now I can't because Larry Markkinen just played in a back-to-back, and prior to the All-Star break, he played in a back-to-back, and guess what? He's questionable tomorrow. Of course he is. John Collins is out. Jordan Clarkson is out. Colin Sexton is out. Walker Kessler is questionable. Larry Markkinen's questionable. Wouldn't you know it? They're playing the Blazers. So I would say that questionable Larry Markkinen is complete garbage and he won't play. I would say the questionable Walker Kessler is close enough to garbage and he won't play. But we're back to this. Just when we thought, whoa, were they changing their mind on this? I don't know. But that brings me into the final point that I want to talk about. I want to talk about this earlier as well. But you will hear, this is what I started to talk about before. You will hear this from people who, for some clout chasing, engagement baiting, just some of them, honestly, just straight up genuine assholes, right? The people will say this. And they have other agendas for the stuff that they say and do. I'm not saying there's not problems with things across the NBA, because there can be. But there'll be people who will throw out a criticism, and half of the criticisms are rooted in, okay, I don't want to fully get into what it is. I have a fairly strong idea what it is. And I know what it is. I'm just not going to get into that part of it. But they'll throw things out, the NBA, terrible product. No one tries. Every team is tanking. Half the teams aren't tanking. Only 5 teams are going to win. They've only got a chance to win. Everyone else is tanking, which is just complete garbage. It's complete garbage. It's easily provable garbage. It's like some of the other stuff about threes and defense and all that sort of stuff. But this tanking part is complete garbage because, again, we can look at what he said. Now, the Jazz, yeah, they've been really frustrated, but they also just played their guys in a back-to-back game and were able to get some victories. But look at the amount of teams at the moment where we sit here and as fantasy managers or even fans of teams, we look at them and go, what are you doing? Why aren't you playing the definite worst player, but he's a young guy with a part into the future? Why is he not playing? Why are we trying these old veterans instead? Why is Bismack Biyombo starting at center? Why is Kelly Olynyk, for the second worst team in the NBA, starting? Why are any of these situations happening? We have this idea, and I push back on it hard. I'm not the only one, but I am sort of isolated in talking about it. Whereas I'm like, in terms of this, people talk so heavily about shutdown. They start so early on this stuff. Like, it's not a thing. You get to the last 2 weeks of the season, and yeah, weird shit happens. It happens a lot, right? In the last 2 weeks of the season, which is just normal stuff. But there is this idea that anytime somebody is out at any point, that anytime anything happening, it's they're trying to lose, or it's a shutdown, or it's happening, or do I move on from this guy, do I move on from this guy? And again, we'll go back and we'll look at it at the end of this season. We'll go through, hey, which players are actually like fake injured, shut down at any point? Because it's a thing that gets just thrown onto 100 different players, and in the end, it might affect 4 or 3 across the course of a season. So when we go through some of these teams and lineups, we'll look at them and go, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? Because we sort of want, like, especially when you're a fan of a team, go, why don't you see what the young guys can do? But the teams don't actually do that. That is not happening to the degree in which it is made out to be happening. Teams are not deliberately out there throwing games. Coaches aren't throwing games. Players aren't throwing games. It is not happening. It is not a thing. But we have been conditioned to parrot that response. Well, some of us have anyway. Let's get on. Oh, that was a long intro because I think there was a lot of stuff there to talk about. We'll come back and talk recaps. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by DoorDash. At this point, I don't believe we have a 50-point score today, but that's okay because at any point that NBA players swoosh, well, you as an NBA fan will save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal that next day. When a player scores 50 points in an NBA 24-25 regular season game, Dash Pass members will get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Chicken wings. Bang. Pizzas. Burgers. What other food do you have? If I said suva, would you know what I meant? I know some of you know what a suva is, but would you know? Would you get it from your Dash Pass? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, whatever food, whatever snack, whatever treat it is that you want, if someone drops a 50 burger, you can get yourself 50 burgers, 50% off, up to $10 off. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders of participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, that'll bring us into the actual games now. So we might as well get on to the first one. It is the early one. It is the Knicks and the Boston Celtics up first. The Knicks, Josh Hart returned, and that meant that Precious Achiuwa went to the bench. Now, if you don't want to hear me criticize your favorite coach, he's the only coach who tries and he's the only one who cares, and the Knicks are the only team that cares about wins and regular season games. If you don't want to hear me talk bad about Tom Thibodeau, turn off. Just turn it off. It's fine, because I'm going to. Yes, Tom Thibodeau can improve the floor of a team in the regular season. But this man is ridiculous. I have maintained for many years about this Knicks team and any team that he coaches is they've got no extra gear. They can't do anything more than what they do now in the playoffs. They can't. There's nothing that they can do extra. There is absolutely no depth on this squad. They have no extra level to push it in the playoffs. None. And I've criticized this team and this coaching structure, this coaching idea for many years, and this year as well. But when you have players, Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, visibly injured with knee injuries, limping around, and happened with Brunson earlier in the season, and he was bad for like 3 months, right? When you have these guys doing this, and you make them play, not only make them play, but play them minutes that they don't need to play, it's ridiculous malpractice. Karl Anthony Towns was not healthy at all. He was limping around. He has had this knee problem for months this season. He's been in and out with that questionable tag for months. Same with Josh Hart. But you're down like 18 points in this game with 4 minutes left or whatever it was. And Towns had already been to the locker room for his knee, comes back in. Bro. And you can tell me, their bench is really bad. Yeah, cool. All right, no problem. Do you think Tibbs would play the bench anyway if they had a lot of guys there? And do you think that the front office didn't bother investing in building out a bench because they know that this guy just won't play them? I think that's a part of it. It is ridiculous. And he's cost plenty of players games and careers because of this. And it's going to happen again. It is insane. Why would you do this? I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what he is doing. It is, at this point, it is I don't want to diagnose things because I can't. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not talking to the man. But that it's something like, it's not like a perception issue. It's something wrong where he's just like, we're down 30. You never know. We can still win. Get back out there. Like it's pathological what this is. Towns played 41 minutes. And that included a locker room trip for a sore knee in a game they were down by 20 points with 3 minutes left. He had 24 and 18, so we love that for fantasy until he gets hurt and then he's not available. Josh Hart had just missed 2 games off with a sore knee. Guess how many he played in a double-digit loss? 40. He had 20 and 11 with 9 assists. Good for him. Good to have him back. Sure, that will be fantastic for him as we move forward. OG Anunoby played 35 minutes in his second game back from the foot, whatever issue that was. He had 10, 2, and 2. Brunson had a 22, 3, and 4. It's just the same sort of stuff. What we also saw different in this game is we got Juice McBride as the big minutes guy off the bench, 27. Well, the big sneeze played 15. He had 0 points, Precious Achiuwa. They've only got 2 quality games this week. Equal worst schedule in the league. Achiuwa back on the bench. You go ahead and remove him post-haste. You don't have to do it post-haste. You can do it at whatever speed you like, but there's no need to be keeping the Achiuwa on your roster unless you believe that Towns is going to miss.
Get that garbage out of here.
They also don't play until Wednesday. What is the Mikal Bridges? What's going on? 28 minutes for him. At least he played every game. 14, 0 and 1. You'll be shocked to know he didn't take a free throw again. This is, bro, is like, what is happening with this guy? Yeah, he was, I thought, insanely ranked to begin the season. And he's way worse than I thought he was going to be. It's been terrible. But here you go. I think it's really, it bothers me so much the way that Thibodeau handles this stuff. It bothers me a lot. On to the next side of the game. It is the Boston Celtics side. They rolled with the same lineup. It was a better Drew Holiday game. He played 32 minutes. He had 14, 4 and 2, 3 steals, a block and 2 threes. And on its own, in isolation, that's great. That is absolutely worthwhile for 12s. But the big thing to me would be, like, who cares? That's great. He had one game here that was very good. The other ones were bad. And we are all about maximizing the roster space. So is he a must-grab now? No. Is he usable in the TMC grouping, the Matherin collective of guys you can just stream through? Yep. Derek White, who'd been a little bit quiet for periods, he was good here, 19, 9, and 7. And Tatum had 25, 10, and 9. Porzingis 15 and 7, and Jalen 24 and 8 with 2 steals. Just a lot of regular stuff from these guys. But Peyton Pritchard, what did he play, like 31 minutes the last game? 17 minutes here. Didn't shoot well, had 3 points. He is a guy that I believe, again, which is contrary to popular opinion, I believe he should be closer to that streaming group than to must-hold group. He's had some good games, absolutely. But I think at times he gets spoken about like he's just a rocket and rolling top 75 guy, and he's like nowhere near that, in my mind. Al Horford had 4 points in 25 minutes. I actually think that Porzingis and Horford will sit the next game. It's on Tuesday. I think it's against Portland. And then they play Detroit the next day. So I think they'll both sit on the first game of the back-to-back. But that is just, pure speculation at this point. Let's go to the second game. It is the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors. Warriors with an easy win, 126-102. The Mavericks trotted out the same lineup that they've been trotting out there. Kessler Edwards continues to start. He had 6 points in 14 minutes. He did get a steal and a block. He did have 8 rebounds. But again, if you're playing 14 minutes and your name's Kessler Edwards and you're on a 2-way contract where you can only play half of the games, well, I don't want anything to do with you. In 10 or 12-team leagues, you're an emergency stream guy at best. PJ played 28 minutes. He had 17 and 4. That's very good. And Kyrie was pretty good as well. 17, 6 and 4 with 2 blocks. But they just got cooked in this game. The C part of Moses Brown played 9 minutes. Remember, this is a blowout. He played 9 minutes. He sucks. He did have 8 rebounds. But what he is a rebounds specialist streamer on a 10-day contract. And Najee Marshall didn't do very much at all. 9, 5, and 2. We don't need to read too much of that. He's a streamy guy, and that is it. Very disappointing to see Max Christie play only 22 minutes. Max had been a very hot ad, and I think we do hold him. But obviously, if he's playing 22 minutes a night, we do not. So that's a bad sign. I'm holding him for now, but I want to see which direction they go. I wouldn't bother with Dante Exum at all. I wouldn't touch Spencer Dinwiddie in 12-team leagues, who's got an insanely high roster percentage. He had 3, 2, and 2 here, Dinwiddie. And Exum's just, it's not going to cut it, man. Like, he's not even... Is Exum even a top 200 player? Nah, he's not even close. Not even a top 250 guy. Like, basically shouldn't be rostered in any leagues, I don't think. The Warriors, though, are probably a situation that gives us a little bit more interest. It's always more interesting when someone wins as well. They rolled the same lineup out there as well, and John Kuminga's not going to play in their next game as well. And that's going to change a lot of stuff on this squad. Brandon Podziemski played 30 minutes. He had 17 and 13, 3 threes, a steal, and a block. Absolutely fantastic. I love the volume. We love the peripheral stats. He's starting for the foreseeable future, which literally might be one more game. But he is the guy that I would prefer to add on this team. It wouldn't be Moses Moody. And Moody's an interesting one because, again, it's not about getting tricked necessarily. But it's about, like, if you go and look and you go into Basketball Monster and you can look at Moses Moody's page and you look at last 2 weeks, if you're using straight, unadulterated 9-cat rankings, it'll say he's the 66th ranked player. And you go, over 2 weeks, 66th rank. Like, that's clearly a must-roster player. But this is one of your ultimate fantasy category league red flags should be. If someone's best category is turnovers, then you can just shave 70 ranking spots basically off that valuation. His second best category was blocks at 1.4 per game. It's Moses Moody. So when we're looking at this stuff, it's very easy. And this is where I think the value that I can provide and the stuff that I do is I can look at that. And it's very easy to just go, 66th, easy, add. What are we doing? Easy. But I look at it and go, nah. Because there's a lot of things there that just have no relevance for winning fantasy leagues. So I can look at what Moses Moody did today. Look, it's fine. 14 and 4. Steal, block, dribble. Fine. No problem. Easy. It's good. It's streamable until Kuminga returns. That is it. That is it. Bud Hield. 3 points in 18 minutes. Oh, the Buddy Hield. We're just doing Buddy Hield cycles game by game now. Good game, bad game, good game, bad game. It's the Jalen Green song. Not much else really going on here. James Butler had 18, 3 and 5. Sorry, Jimmy Butler III. He had 18, 3 and 5. Steph Curry had 30 and 4 with 7 assists. And Draymond had 13, 4 and 6. It's good games all around. Shout out to old mate the Fort, Kevin Knox, who's back in action. He played 7 minutes. Imagine that. Imagine Kevin Knox being back and playing. Obviously, yeah, blowout is a factor. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You can place live bets on FanDuel because when the NBA action starts, that's not the end of the betting. That's just the beginning. Yeah, because you've got live betting. And as the game goes on, you might see something happening. You might say, all right, I reckon Kevin Knox is coming. And now I'm going to doubt. FanDuel's great. I'm going to doubt they're chucking up a whole range of player props for Kevin Knox. I could be pleasantly surprised. I'm not sure. But I do know that during a game, there'll be little ebbs and flows of things that happen, and you can go and place all those live bets on FanDuel. And you can combine them together into a same-game parlay to get better odds. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to join today. That is FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 redos in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, that will bring us now onto the third game of the day. A couple of these ones, early ones, obviously, but the next one we're talking about here was the Clippers and the Indiana Pacers. Another game that was relatively lopsided. The Clippers did pull their starters early in this one. The Pacers win 129-111 is your final score there. We'll go through the Clippers. There was no Kawhi in this game, so Derek Jones moved into the starting lineup. We'll just start with Jimmy Harden. 31, 7, 11, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 6 dribbles. I reckon we may hear from him in the line of the night. Maybe. Zubats, 22 and 6. Now, it's easy to look at that and go, oh my God, Ben Simmons killed if it's a Zubats. It's easy to look at that, right? Except he still played 30 minutes and he didn't play, I think, the final 3 or 4 minutes of the game. Blowout. I wouldn't be too... It's a little annoying. But one of the things also at this time of the year, when we're talking about how we respond to things in fantasy, if, for example, Ben Simmons is going to limit Zubats to 30 a game, last game, again, look at the differences in Zubats' numbers are through the roof. Even if he limits him to 30 minutes again, let's say that's the thing that's happening. What are you going to do about it? What can you do? Nothing is the answer. For me, what that means, I have to go through and adjust everyone's projections and change all the stuff. But for you, if Zubats is on your team, just go, what am I going to do? Am I going to drop him? No. Am I going to bench him? No. Just my production drops. Like, you can't do anything about it. So I think wasting energy on that idea is just like, all it does is give you something to go, Ben Simmons. But I don't know that it does anything for you. Anyway, his numbers were still fine. He would have played easily over 30 had it not been a blowout. Chris Dunn could not keep the good times rolling. He had 4 and 5 with a steal and a block. It was understandable that would happen. He was never going to keep up that level of production, but he still played 27 minutes in the blowout. And I expect tomorrow with Ben Simmons out, that Dunn is going to play similar minutes, and he is at the moment, he's not quite a must-roster player, but he's a guy that I'm targeting to stream in tomorrow. We talked about that on the streaming show earlier today. I'll stream him in for tomorrow, and then we just see where it goes. I'd probably drop him straight after that. Derek Jones did absolutely nothing. Remember his little 10-day run of being, maybe he's a 12-team league guy. Yeah, that's pretty done now. He had 6 points in 19 minutes. Well, we got 29 Bogdanovich minutes. That's just one to watch, isn't it? 29 of Bogdan in the past, you'd be frothing it. You'd love that. That'd make him a 12-team option. But 11, 1, and 2, 31% is pretty rough. But getting 29, yes, no Kawhi and Norm Powell. Remember that. But 29 is interesting. At least goes into the, maybe we put you in the stream territory. I didn't even talk Simmons. He played 24 minutes. He had 8, 3, and 4 with 2 steals. No interest. Don't care in 12s. Not adding him. Stream him? Fine. You want some assists? Not a problem. But as a guy that I've got to sit here and tell you that is a must-roster player, no. I do not believe that at all. Onto the Pacers side of things. Tyrese Haliburton, 29, 1 and 12, 3 steals. It would be very funny to me. It would be very funny if post All-Star break through to the end of fantasy playoffs, if Tyrese Haliburton's a top 10 player. it would be incredibly funny for the way that people have gone on. And he had a raft of terrible performances. But if he's able to put up first-round numbers in the fantasy playoffs, very interesting. Here's a question for you, and I ask this question every year, and I always get varying responses, is what's more important, right? Because I know that people will do this, and when we do the recap at the end of the year, there's going to be people who go, yeah, you're so wrong on Vooch. It's so terribly wrong. He was the 12th best player all season. And again, I'll say, well, the rankings are not really giving you what you need to do. Like, that's the incorrect thing. But irrespective of that, if he rolls for the first 18 weeks as the 10th best player, and then like he currently is now the 140th best player, and he's that all through the playoffs, does it matter? Like, yes, you gaining value early in the season is important, and it's put you in a strong position. But if you're a relatively strong fantasy manager, most of the time in a lot of leagues, you can get your way into the playoffs. So I guess what my question is that when we're assessing a ranking for a total season, is it better to look at the totality of the season and just go, here's all the year averages, bang? Or do we look at things, especially for head-to-head formats? Roto, very different story. For head-to-head formats, is like a per-game ranking through second half of the year in the playoff push, even if it's just like January onwards, playoff push into fantasy playoffs, is that more indicative of where the actual value is? I don't really have the answer to it. It's just something that I think is worth talking about when we assess the valuations of players. I think it's worth talking about. All right. What else do I need to talk about in this game? Oh yeah, we're still talking paces, aren't we? Miles Turner, 17, 6 and 4, 2 blocks, great. Big Aaron Nesmith game, 19 and 6 with 2 threes. But you know what he is? He's part of TMC. It's him, it's Mathurin, it's Nembhard, and it's McConnell. And they're not good enough to roster in 12s, but they're fine to use. Today it was Nesmith's turn. Nembhard and Mathurin, nothing. 8 points for Mathurin in 21 minutes, 12, 5 and 1 for Nembhard in 30. These are not guys that you have to just have banged onto your roster. You do not. At all in 12-team leagues. Not at all. They're guys who have a limited set of usefulnesses that you can use at certain points when it makes sense. TJ McConnell hurt his ankle. He was 100% from the field. He's one of those guys that every time we do a Sunday show and the Pacers play, that his name pops up as one of the best field goal percentage streamers. And every time I look at it and go, really? I'm really going to put him there? But yeah, I am. And he 100% shot the game, so well done for him. Siakam was a little bit poor in this one. And by a little bit, I mean, what is that percentage? 12 points on 33%. And bad from the line. But overall, he's had a pretty strong run. Although recently, cooled down a little bit. Over Toppin, 10 and 5 with 6 assists. And again, there are people still holding Thomas Bryant. For the love of actual God, can you please stop doing that? Why is he 14% rostered? 7 and 3 in 12 minutes for the tank, Tom Bryant. Let's go do the next game now. We're talking Indiana. Oh, India, that was India. We're talking Detroit and the Atlanta Hawks, the high-scoring one here. The Pistons get it 148-143 ahead of Atlanta. We'll start in Detroit, of course, here. They're the road team, and we'll start with Cade Cunningham, who, 38, 7 and 12, 7 threes, 38 minutes, 3 blocks, elite from the field, elite from the line. This man has had an absolute cracker of a season. He's the 10th ranked player. I have been a long time Cade fan, and I'm finally glad that it's coming to fruition. I talked crazy talk last season, said he just gets small percentage increases, he'll be a first round guy. Now, it didn't happen last season, obviously, but it did this season. And yeah, he is flying. Tim Hardaway had a better game, but we know what this man is. He hits threes, sometimes. 18 points, 6 triples. Cool. Don't care. Also, don't care that Dennis Schroeder had 16, 4, and 7. That's a very good game, absolutely. Of course it is. But I don't care. He's a backup. He played a little bit with Cade in this one. He had to get quite hot, and things had to work in his favor. But it's just not something that has any real appeal in any sort of standard 10, 12 team format. 14, maybe you stretch it there, but I don't even think we do that. Asad Thompson, and this is part of why Schroeder was able to play a little bit more, he got into some extreme foul trouble. The line is, look, you ignore the minutes and you go, wow, 14, 2 and 2 with 3 steals, I'll take it. He's also on an incredibly high field goal percentage run, 88%. But then you go, why do you play 17 minutes? Foul trouble, that's it. He is feeling more like a stable hold at the back end of a roster. Jalen Duren only played 23 minutes in this game, which is a little frustrating, absolutely. But the numbers are still okay, 13, 5, and 6. And the thick hogsman, who had been playing well, Tobias Harris, this is a bit of a dud, for 12, 4, and 3. Not much else that's really massively worth talking about, although it was a big Leaky Beasley game. 24 and 7 with 6 threes. We know who he is. He hits threes. That's what he does. He doesn't do anything else. Well, sometimes he scores, but that's who he is. We also had Simone Fontecchio leave this game early with a hand issue. No real update on what the actual issue is there, but he doesn't impact really anybody in any fantasy league, to be honest, which I generally try to do. Let's talk about the Hawks side of things. They rolled the same starting lineup again. Let's talk about Dyson Daniels. Do you think this man's going to win Defensive Player of the Year? 24, 5, and 6, 4 steals and a block. He shot the ball incredibly well. He has been probably the best draft steal of the season, I would say. We liked him as a late round pick, but even the most adamant and ardent Dyson fluffers wouldn't have suggested he'd be this good. I'll ask Kingy next time he's on later in the week and say, look, come on, like Kingy, I know, but come on. No one thought this. No one thought this. He's been great. Ricochet talked at length about him today on the waiver wire show, I believe it was, and I said, hey, he has been quietly, very quietly, decent, improving over the last, say, 2 months. But it hasn't really translated because he doesn't play enough minutes. Well, today he played 31. He had 19 and 6 with 4 threes, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. An incredibly good game. It is worth noting that he has had a couple of really strong games dotted throughout the season and then gone back to shit after that. But the man is top 70 over the last 2 weeks. And I would hope, common sense would suggest that they should just try and see if he can play 30 minutes a night down the stretch. A lot of those big games that he previously had were on the back of 80% shooting. And you go, okay, it's fake. We know that's not happening. This one wasn't, though. He hit 67 from 3. Cool. But it wasn't like his 2-pointers were high. And it was about getting some threes, getting some rebounds, getting some steals, getting some blocks. But importantly, it's just about playing more minutes. So they've got one of the worst schedules this week with only 2 quality games. He was one of my guys when we're talking about my streaming plan that if I wanted to drop him, if I wanted to drop someone, he would be one of the guys I'd consider dropping for Atlanta. And we haven't ticked over onto that time where I have to, theoretically make that move to track my streaming stuff. I'm not sure that I would drop him now. I think I might actually take him off that list. Because that's a good enough sign. George Niang, 27 and 7 in 36 minutes. This was an incredibly high-paced game, obviously, and everyone was hitting every shot. We know what Niang is. He's a points and threes guy, and he delivered that here. That's great. The Hawks also don't have a game on the weekend, so you can maybe hold early on and then move off later if you want. But Niang was great. Not going to do that every game, clearly. Trae Young had 38, 2 and 13 with 6 triples. That's a great game. But, of course, while others step up, some has to step back. And that meant that Jakaris LeVert played only 23 minutes. He had 7 and 1 with 1 assist. Clint Capella played 18 minutes, had 8 and 7 with 2 blocks. And, very clearly to me, and along with Niang, these aren't guys that I want to hold through this week. Mohamed Ayuge had 2 points in 12 minutes. He had 2 rebounds, and he continues to start. I don't know why. If you're going to start, I will never understand the coaching urge to go, all right, here's our starters. You go out there. But, Mohamed, you're not really, are you? You're actually pretty bad. Can you just clog up 6 minutes, then come sit down and never come back in the half? Can you do that for me? Sounds good. Really good move from you. Just go out there, run around for a couple of minutes, then take a seat. Really love that from you. What are we doing? Why? Why do we do that? I don't understand it. If someone's got a rational theory for me about why we're throwing out openers like him, what for? It's like a night watchman. Who knows what a night watchman is? It's basically what he is. He's a night watchman. Anyway, enough of that. Terrence Mann remains shit. Let's go to the next game. We're talking the 5th game of the day. It is the Washington Wizards, the Orlando Magic. That wasn't a very good one, was it? The Magic win 110-90. Rashawn Holmes gets the start over Alex Sarr. Yeah, Rashawn Holmes. 30-year-old busted-ass Rashawn Holmes. On a team that's tanking. Not trying to win. Rashawn Holmes had 11 and 10 with 2 blocks in 29. Now, they can't win because they're bad. But they are. This is what back to my earlier point, is they could just say, all right, we don't need Brogdon, Smart, Middleton, Holmes, Valanciunas to ever play. But they're deliberately starting them because they actually are trying to win. They just can't. Holmes is streamable-ish when Sarr is out, but what's this, an ankle sprain for Sarr? We don't really know how long that lasts. And what we do like, and I love to see this, is Tristan Vukcevic played 19 minutes, 12 and 5. Now, the problem here is that when Sarr returns, Vukcevic goes to the bench and gets zeros. But it's just a name to remember. Carlton Carrington didn't start, even though Middleton was out. They went with Justin Bubbles Champagny, who played 31 minutes. He shot 14% Champagny. He had 6 and 6, while Carrington had 13, 5 and 4, and didn't really wow me. And then tomorrow we're going to have Smart and Middleton returning as well. So I'm at the stage I don't think you need to be holding Carrington. I think you're almost pretty much there with Bilal as well. 11, 2 and 6 is whatever. He had 35 minutes. You're going to be dicked around with different usage guys coming in and out. There might be a period where Bilal puts it all together, but I'm willing to bet that I think you probably, I don't know, but I think you probably won't regret it if you needed to move on. The other one to watch was Keyshawn George, who, 27 minutes, 9 points, 3 threes, 1 block. He got the block. He's not a must roster at all. He's a fine-ish guy that I think if I had to hold someone, him or Carrington or Kispert or Bilal, I probably would hold George, but probably it's not like a super strong idea to do it. And then Kispert, bro's just bad. 9 points and 1 3. Easy. He's still a streamer, Kispert, because what he does is shoot. And the role is okay. Tomorrow will be interesting when Smart and Middleton are there and we see how they decide to roll things out. The Magic side of things, I talked at length about this stuff. And I talk at length about a lot of things because that's just who I am. But I said, Cole Anthony's been playing so well. He's been putting up great numbers. There's no chance he's able to hold this rest of season. Even, again, I do have people that ask these questions, and that's okay because we do love what just happened. But I said, just wait. There's going to be something happen here where Mr. Black, who's been doing nothing, is going to pop off. He's going to play 30 minutes, and he's going to look like the guy. Guess what happened? Anthony Black had 23 and 7 with 4 threes, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, which honestly, and I say this without any level of sarcasm or humor or elaboration or anything, I am not certain, but that could be close to totaling the rest of his February production in one game. Now, is there a little bit of exaggeration? Maybe. But also, I don't know. That's a ridiculously good game. If you went and grabbed Anthony Black right now, you don't get it. You probably get a 1-pointer coming in the next one. But this has been a consistent pattern. He is one of the more inconsistent players in the NBA. As for Anthony, 5 points on 11% with no defensive stats, no steals. That's, of course, a defensive stat. What I meant to say was just 1 rebound and 1 assist. And again, he's been useful to stream. And when Suggs comes back, he'll be useless. Wendell Carter played 20 minutes. He had 11 and 9. He had a triple one. The numbers are fine. But I still don't think he's anything more than a stream guy. While Goga Bitadze played 22. He had 11 and 9 with 2 steals. Thankfully, the 2 highest guys I had for rebound streaming yesterday were Goga and Wendell, and that worked out pretty well. But you don't want either of them to hold as 12-team league guys. Wagner had 23 and 7, while Banchero had 19, 5 and 5. At least Paolo was 8 of 9 from the line, which is, again, is not something that you say about him all that often, and KCP continues to be just an absolute disaster. 5 points in 23 minutes for KCP. Okay, so the next game. Oh, our Raptors, they're doing it. 127 over the Suns, 109. Phoenix rolled out the same lineup. Is there a stinkier team than Phoenix at the moment? Probably not. Jesus, this is rough, man. Same lineup for them. Let's just do a quick bowl check. 5.7 minutes. I could not jack this man harder.
Get that garbage out of here. Get that garbage out of here.
He has people in an absolute chokehold. I'm still getting people, hey, do you think it'd be a bad idea if I just... would it be bad if I drop Bol in a 12-team league? No, what? What? No. Drop him. Easy. What? No. This is not even debatable. There is no justification for me for why you would hold Bol. He is bad. And the only reason you do it is if the coach decides to have a temporary break from reality and play him. And that's it. And that's what happened. And then we snapped back, didn't we? Oh, he sucks. Beal, who was getting 28 minutes as a bench player, plays 41 minutes here, 30 and 4. I know it's easy to throw a lot of stuff on Beal, and there's a lot of stuff that I think is incredibly unfair. on Bradley Beal. Incredibly. I think that, yeah, like, he's had some injury problems. Yep. Is that his fault? Like, no. It's just injuries. But also, like, Bradley Beal's the real cause of, like, turmoil in this locker room. Why? Because he wouldn't void his no trade. Okay. Why does that make him a bad person? Hey, Brad, we are a team that's trying to win a championship. Do you mind if we just, like, get you out of here, uproot your whole family, send you to a new organization, disrupt everything in your life, and put you on a team that probably has less chance to win? You'd be cool with that. Don't tap the sign. Bro, you can't do that. Oh my God, what a bad guy he is. What a terrible person. What a terrible person. He negotiated an advantage for himself and used the advantage. What a terrible guy. Mind you, the guy they tried to bring in to replace him was the one who was deliberately withholding services that wasn't a part of his negotiated contract. But Beal, terrible guy, caused all the rift in the locker room by exercising the negotiated for no trade option that they knew about. Anyway, Beal's back. BDNR, 21 minutes, 10 and 8, steal on a block. He's hovering in the Jackson Hayes zone now. This is what it is. It's a fine option. He was better yesterday, not as good today. He's righto. Like, you look at him like Wendell Carter, Goga Badadze, Jackson Hayes, these sort of spud-level streaming centers. That's who he is. Royce O'Neal, yeah, yuck. This man has some of the hottest and coldest streaks you'll ever see. Literally 2 games ago, what do you have? Like 6 threes on 80% shooting? And now he's what? I think he's made 2 shots in the last 2 games. 25%, 5 and 8. Sorry, 5 and 4, 2 steals and a block. The rest of it's okay. But he's no more than a stream level guy. Same with Grayson Allen, who had 9 and 4. Booker had 31, 4 and 8, 2 steals and a block. Durant, 15, 4 and 4, 3 steals and 3 blocks. Durant, yeah, that's not his best game, clearly, and the minutes are still insane. But look at Tyus Jones, man. It took a while to get here, but they realized, A, they don't need him, and B, he's a backup point guard. And it's one of those ones where, and I hate to say, this is one of the things that I think makes you lose an argument. If you're arguing about something regarding a player, right, and you say to someone, maybe you should watch the games. If you watch the games, it's so condescending. And I don't like to do that to anybody, right? I don't like to do that to anybody. And I'm not deliberately, specifically arguing against anybody here, but I think what is important that if you watch, or when you watch Tyus Jones play, and you look at his assists, and he's, the best ever assist to turnover player, and they need that. The Suns, they're so disorganized, and they need this point guard to do that. And then you go and watch the assists that he generates. And you go, yeah, I get it. Like, bro never takes a risk ever. Never does anything to actually generate an advantage for a team. It's these, like, I've got the ball and, like, here you go. And then just chucks it to someone and they just shoot it right next to him. And then he gets an assist. I'm not blaming Tyus for this, but it's the way that he gets pushed up into this level. The reason why the best players have high turnovers is because they have the vision to try and create. And creation is what's important. Tyus does not do any of that. And it's one of those ones where the numbers on that do mislead you. So you do have to watch and go, what actually are these assists that are happening? Because man is getting like 8 assists and 1 turnover. Must be the best passer ever. And like Harden had 15 assists, but he had 8 turnovers. That's disgusting. Anyone could get 15 assists if they're throwing that many passes. And the difference is very clear, I think. Anyway, they've realized they don't need Tyus Jones. They've realized he's a backup point guard. And also, I think a lot of teams realize this, considering nobody signed him, and he was signed on a minimum very late in the process. So, yeah, long story short, Tyus Jones is not a guy to hold at all in 12-team leagues. All right, let's go to the Raptors side of this game. My boys, let's go. Toronto rolls out the same starting lineup. Wouldn't you know it, Emmanuel Quickley might be a good player. 23, 6 and 8, 2 steals, a block, and 5 threes. It's been a really, really rough go from Quickley this season, and he is going to be... There are 2 players that I think are going to fall in this camp this season. It's going to be him, and it's going to be Mark Williams. Players who started the season incredibly slowly and late due to injuries. And people are going to... Cycling back to that discussion I had earlier. Discussion, it wasn't. I'm talking to myself. Things that I said and you heard. And you may have spoken them out loud. You may have written it down. I don't know what you do with it. That's okay. But we talked about what is the value of a player. Is it just look at season-long averages? Because someone's going to come in and go, Quickly was only the 90th ranked player or 100th ranked player for the season. That's, man, what a disappointment. And it's going to mean nothing. And the same is going to happen with Mark Williams. Because this is still a top 50 player. And it obviously has not worked out so far. But if he was able to play all the way through, say, to the 25th of March and roll as a top 50 player, well, that's like exactly what you thought he could do. And I don't want him to go too hard here because it'll take a lot of the value off him for next season in drafts. But it's one of those ones that without context, without thinking, when you look at the season-long numbers for somebody like this, you'll go, man, very disappointing, and I don't think I can get excited about him. That is where I think a lot of the differences can be made playing fantasy. Barnesy, 20 and 9, 4 assists, 2 threes. Great. What about Boucher? Am I going to do anything with it? Probably not. But he had 23 and 10 with 20 minutes and 4 threes. The OG Bol put up a really good line, and he can't be trusted to do it regularly. They also started Orlando Robinson again. Robbo is a very strong permanent player. 10 and 7 with 2 assists. Now, he didn't have any peripheral defense. He didn't hit any threes, none of that stuff. But he is playing ahead of John Mobo now, who's moved from like a 29-minute player to a reserve 20-minute guy. And you could go ahead and very easily drop John Mogo. John Mobo. You can also jack Dick. 9 points for Grady in 26 minutes with 3 threes. He is nothing more than a 14-team points and 3 streamer. And Abaji is also insanely over-rostered in 12-teamers. He had 5 points. He remains terrible. 23, 6, and 7 for RJ Barrett with his relatively typical bad percentages. His high field goals haven't fully carried over from last season. He's still providing value, of course. This is just not a particularly strong game. So I'm open a little bit to Orlando Robinson moving into streaming territory. I'm going to probably just ignore the Boucher game. And I'm just out on Dick. I'm out on Mobo. I'm out on Walter. I'm out on Abaji. I'm out on all those guys. And I'm extremely encouraged by Quickly and what he was able to provide for us. Next up, it is what game? It is Miami. It is Milwaukee. Big news here. Nikola Little Chungus Jovic broke his hand. That is right hand. That's bad. That's a month. That's drop. And what it does do is it opens up a lot of minutes. Now, does this mean that Superman Khalil Ware is going to play 37 minutes every night? I don't think so. But what it does do is it just takes a capable player that Spoelstra was giving 27 to 30 minutes out of the rotation. Ware was already on track to play more minutes in the first half, even before Jovic was out. Because Jovic got ruled out at halftime. Jovic had played, I think, 15. What did he end up playing? He played 15 minutes, 20. So he'd played 15 first half minutes. He played his regular allotment. And Ware, I think, was at 15 minutes in that same time. So they'd already pushed him up a bit. Now, it's not a spectacular game by Kellel. He had 12, 12, and 4. And you'd think playing 37 minutes, you get a lot more than that. But if losing those 30 minutes from Jovic, so they can't go Jovic-Bam together anymore, that means that Ware's floor is raised enough to make him a hold. Kyle Anderson was the guy that first came in to replace Jovic. He only played 9 second-half minutes, so instead of the 30 minutes that Jovic normally gets in a game, we saw 15 for Jovic first half, 8 for Anderson in the second. Also, by the way, 10 minutes for Terry Rozier. What is happening? Yeah, you can very comfortably drop Terry Rozier. But you'll notice that neither Jaime Jaquez nor Haywood Highsmith played. So if Anderson's going to be in the rotation replacing Jovic, and it's Spoelstra, that can change at any point, but there's like 12 minutes or so, the difference between, let's say 10, the difference between Kyle Anderson and the difference between Jovic. And do those 10 minutes, do 6 of them go on to the 24 that Ware was playing? Maybe. And that does help that floor. Wiggins, 40 minutes is crazy. He won't play that much most nights, but 20 and 6 with a 111. Now, just horrendous on the percentages, but the accounting stats are good. In case anyone dropped him, you add him. Hero had 40 and 7 with 11 assists, an amazingly good game. He has been fantastic this season. Better than anything I could have thought about. I didn't think there was any way he'd be able to do this, but he's been great. And Adebayo had 24 and 7. Better game from him. They lost, though. The Bucks were 120 to the Heat's 113. We'll talk about Milwaukee now because they brought a couple of guys back, so their lineup changed. We had Damian Lillard returning. That meant that Ryan Rollins moved to the bench, and then we had Torian Prince returning, so Big Boom AJ Green went to the bench. Giannis was on a minutes restriction. They said it was 31 minutes, which is a very weird number, and he went over by 55 seconds. Oh, no. 23, 16, and 7 with a 111, big numbers, and didn't take a single free throw somehow. Lillard, 28, 3, and 8. Big percentages, great that he's back. Brook Lopez with no Bobby Portis. The floor for him is raised through the roof. 17 and 4, 2 threes, 2 blocks. Great. Gaz Trent. Oh no, we've got a big Gaza game. 16-4 with 3 threes. You know what to do. Nothing. You don't trust it. You use him as a streamer. Kuzma. 16-3-3. No defensive stats. Is it usable? Like, sure. Is it must rosterable? No, it's not. That doesn't mean that he has to be dropped. But unless one of these guys, the main guys, are out, Kuzma's going to sort of float around and not really be much of a 12-team category option. Points league, different story. Prince had been playing really well, but did not in this game. He had 2 points in under 20 minutes. He's only like a 14-team league guy at best as a threes sort of stream guy. This is very disappointing. And the minutes went to Trent and it went to Big Boom AJ, who had 5 points in his 30 minutes of action. Let's go on to the next game because this is another one of these ones where there were confusing situations, I guess, that we're going to try and break down. The San Antonio Spurs and the Pelicans. The Pelicans win it easy, 114-96. The Spurs trotted out the same starting lineup, and that meant that 39-year-old, I don't think so, but close enough, Bismack Biyombo played 30 minutes. 10 and 10, 2 steals and 4 blocks. It's a good game. But he's on a 10-day contract. Will they sign him rest of season? Will they? And also, he started 3 in a row, and he's done nothing like this at all. This is a good game. It's against the Pelicans, but it's a good game. I would not have felt any sort of way towards adding Biyombo, except Goldfinger had to leave the game early again, Charlie Bassey. Knee soreness. That knee is getting to the stage where it's I won't say career killer, but that is like multiple knee injuries, same knee, multiple flare-ups here. That's a real problem. He started out unbelievably. 4 and 3, 2 steals in under 6 minutes. That's great. That's trending towards a huge game. And then he didn't play it out. Try and slot him in your IL plus until we get an update. Mamu only got 7 minutes. We can obviously move on from that. And then Steph Castle. Oh my God, what is this? 2 points. 22 minutes. 10% shooting. No assists. No rebounds, no steals, no blocks. That is horrific. For as good as we think Castle has been, he still isn't good, and he still is not good for fantasy. He is outside the top 150 over the last 2 weeks. He's outside the top 160 for the season for points leagues, and outside the top 230 for category leagues. And while the idea could have been, hey, he's going to get a real bump without Wembanyama, that literally has not played out at all. The guy that's getting the bump is the horse, Keldon Johnson, and he added a huge game again. But look again at his line. It is very important to look at this. 18 points is great. You go, oh my God, we're off. Let's go. He's the ad. He still played under 24 minutes. He shot 79% to get there. And then 2 rebounds, bad. 3 assists, not good. 1 steal, whatever. 0 blocks, not good. He is a points merchant who I believe needs 28 minutes a night and good usage to be a 12-team category league guy. Points leagues, it's a little bit different. But you will get enamored, or some of you will look at it and go, that's great. I love me some horsecock. And he will go out there and look at the scoring. He's the guy. He's the winner. Well, he did the thing. He did the thing that I'm going to tell everyone to always pay attention to. When somebody turns opportunity and marries it with hot streak, it looks like it's all opportunity. And that's what Johnson has done. Wemby goes down, I'm going to shoot 90%. Must be all because Wemby is gone. No, absolutely it is not. But it looks like it on the surface. I'm not telling you not to add Keldon Johnson. You can try it and see what happens. But what he is doing at the moment, I look at it and just look at my watch and go, one more game, and then we're done. How much longer till this doesn't last? Because nothing here suggests, it's really the Wemby factor. All it is like, yeah, I'm just deciding not to miss for 2 games in a row. And that's what's bumped it all up. Good game from Bubbles. He had 18 and 4 and 4 with 6 dribbles. Love that. I don't want to trust into that, and I think we leave that as a deeper league spot. Fox had 13, 7 and 5 and shot horribly, like horribly. He's not the only one because Devin Vassell also had 5 points on 11% shooting in 25 minutes. I know a lot of you will want to drop Devin Vassell. I probably wouldn't, personally. It's a really terrible run, but it's like a reverse Keldon Johnson. The last two games with no Wemby, Johnson shot 90%. I think Vassell shot like literally 14% combined. And that has limited him. Like nothing goes in, and Australian fast bowling legend Mitch Johnson looks at it and goes, take a seat, my guy. But if he was rolling Keldon Johnson levels, he'd be playing 37 minutes a night. He'd have 30 a game in the 2 games just from shot variance. So I would try to hold. I'm not sure you got to do it with Sohan, though. What's his actual upside? Is it high enough to hold through this? 4 and 8, steal and a block. I'm not sure it is. And Harrison Barnes had 13, 4 and 2 because he is the pencil. Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. Cool. So I think what might end up happening when you look at who the winner is post-Wemby, no one. I think it's probably going to end up being no one, which is really not the way that I thought it would pan out. Pelicans, they continued to start Kelly Olynyk. All right. So the question is going to be, is Kelly Olynyk a must roster? 14 and 15 for Big K. He played 25 minutes. All right. Do I believe any of that? Not really. Honestly, not really. That was great. He started the game before. What do you have? I'll double check that. I think he had 4 and 3 is the correct answer. So, when we look at that, it's good. It's solid. Kelly Olynyk, I don't think, has got anything left in the tank to be the guy. And I talked about this on the Waiver Wire show earlier today, and I still don't think that this changes. This is a good game. But, the game before, let's bring it up. He had, 4 and 3 in 1 fewer minute. Okay, cool. What was the difference? He took 1 fewer shot in this game, and he got to the line 6 fewer times, and then he grabbed 12 extra rebounds out of nowhere. Variance. Same minutes, 24 minutes to 25 minutes, 3 rebounds, 15 rebounds. 6 free throw attempts, 0 free throw attempts. It's interesting that he's starting, but that there is not enough there with Kelly Olynyk for me to look at it and go, yeah, absolutely must grab him. Because I'll be honest with you, it wasn't even the best category league fantasy line on the team. That was Carlo Makovic, who had 19 and 6 with a 3 and a block, mainly because he shot 89%. Now, I still believe that Carlo Makovic can be a useful contributor, but a 21-minute reserve third-string center, I don't care. I'm not holding on to that. Alvarado, I am. He's coming off the bench for whatever reason, 12, 9, and 8 with 2 threes in 30 minutes. But again, this is a team that's starting Kelly Olynyk, not because they believe that he's what's going to make them lose, not because they believe he's a part of the future, because they think, I'm doing this to win right now. They're not as extreme as Tom Thibodeau, but that's what they're doing. I think you hold on to Alvarado. It was a really bad shooting night from both Trey Murphy and CJ McCollum. 15 and 7 for Trey, 12, 3 and 7 for CJ. Well, Yves Missi grabbed his 15 boards, but the rest is incredibly mid. I would put Yves Missi in the whatever that group. We've got the TMC, the old Matherin Collective, mainly for wings and guards. What's the big man line? The BD&R Super Slurpers. Nick Richards, Jackson Hayes, Goga Badadze, Wendell Carter, Yves Missi. Throw Olynyk and Makovic in there if you want. Just a bunch of guys with limited upside that you can stream in for big man stats. And that's who I think Missi is. What else have we got? Oh, Zion, 22 and 9, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Again, continues to put up actually ridiculously good numbers, and it's only limited minutes. And yeah, I think people are going to be sort of sleeping on that quite a bit about how good he actually has been over this time. Let's do the next one. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Cleveland Cavaliers. 123 Memphis, 129 Cleveland. Same lineup here for the Grizzlies. Morant played 34 minutes. That's 3 games in a row for Jar, so just be prepared for him to sit the next one. 21, 2 and 10. One of his better games. He's had some very, very big struggles this season. Also a bit of a weird game in terms of rotations. It was Zach Edey against a good team. So how did he do? Well, he played good minutes, I guess. 25 minutes, 6 and 9, steal and a block. Chuck him into the BD&R Super Slurpers group. He's a streaming center. That's it. Aldama had 15 and 6. He had 3 threes, actually, a steal and a block. He continues to just provide value, and then you go, okay, I'm in. And then he has 3 points for 3 games in a row. So, yeah, he's a frustrating player, obviously. Also a game where Jaren Jackson got into foul trouble, which helps Aldama and it helps Edey. Jaren played just 25 minutes. He had 22, 3 and 4 steal, but he had 5 fouls in that time. And we had Vince Williams pushed to 20 minutes. A name to watch for streaming as we move forward. 10 points in 20 minutes for Vince with 2 steals. He's probably not going to do enough to be a must-roster guy, but he's moving into a larger role. Jalen Wells hit his threes. He had 14 points with 4 threes, but he's only a deeper league guy, and Bane just really struggled. 15% shooting, 7 points. Luke Kennard also able to step up in this one. He had 19 in 26, but I don't think there's really anything actionable in that one with old mate Kennard. On to the Cavs. They had Darius Garland didn't play in this game with what they called a hip issue. So he was out, but it wasn't Milk that started. It was, in fact, Isaac Okoro. But it didn't matter because Milk still played 23 minutes. 26, 5 and 4 with 3 threes and 2 steals. That's an amazingly good game for Ty Jerome. He continues to shoot at unbelievable levels. We have seen that when the team is healthy, he will play 17 minutes and not be useful. And then there's random pop-off games like this happen. Does that make him a must-roster guy? I honestly don't think it does. But I also get it that you would have an incredibly hard time moving on from him after a game like this. Because Garland might miss the next couple. That's true. But this level of shooting from him is actually crazy. Mobley had 25, 13, and 8 with 3 blocks. He has been incredibly good this season. Max Strus had a pretty solid game, 11, 8, and 3, but no more than a streamer. And DeAndre Hunter, also a streamer. Although, 8 rebounds from DeAndre Hunter. Can't ask for much more. 12 and 8 for him. Jarrett Allen with the finger issue. He obviously was playing through it and okay. Not a great game, but 13 and 10. At least he was out there. While Mitchell had 33, 2 and 6. Not many other takeaways here apart from that big Jerome game. And the fact that, we can really cement in that Strus and Hunter are just not going to be 12-team guys, especially given the way the schedule plays out for them this week. Jerome is a tougher one just because of the Garland injury here. I still find it very hard to look at a 17-minute, maybe a night, 7th man as somebody that I would want to deploy in 12-team leagues. I don't feel the comfort in that, but some of you will, and I get it. It's okay. It's just, for me, I go in, I adjust projections, I make these moves, and I look at it, and I still can't ever get him to sit at a spot where it looks like it's a clear must. Because I just can't do it. I can't get him there. But he's getting himself there. Giggity. So the final game, we're talking Oklahoma City Thunder. They get the win on the road against the Wolves, 130 to 123. The Thunder rolling out that same lineup. Shea was great. 27, 8 and 8, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 3 dribbles. The old Chris Gale. Huge game. Weirdly bad from the line, which again is not bad, but when you take 11 attempts and you go 73%, it does hurt. And I'm pretty sure that one person watching this show, lost their week for free throws due to Shea's performance, which is so stupid to say considering how good he was. Jalen Williams, 18, 3 and 9, 3 steals and a block. Fantastic. Chet, he's back. 19 and 4, 3 threes and 3 blocks. Putting up some very good numbers. Obviously not that top 20 sort of numbers before the injury, but that's great. And Hartenstein doing enough. I know there were some people who were a little bit concerned that they would need to drop him. You don't. 26 minutes, 12, 9 and 5 is good enough. It was also an incredibly good Alex Caruso game, and that opens my eyes. The old Rabbit Hunter had 11 and 7 with 3 threes and 2 steals. Now, he's been nowhere near 12-team useful this season. I don't think he is quite yet, but 120th over the last 2 weeks. If he repeated this performance, then yeah, we would use him. But he is very much, now this is obviously a different team, but it's a little bit like the Pacers and the old TMC, the old Matherin Collective, all of these guard wingy types who we can consider to stream. Caruso, Wiggins, Dort, Wallace, Joe. None of them stand out, but all of them have some value. Now, everyone was rushing to grab Aaron Wiggins a week ago maybe. He had 15 points with no rebounds, no assists, no steals. He shot well, he hit 4 threes, but we don't roster him. Lou Dort, we don't roster him, 4 and 3. The Hong Kong Mattress, Carson Wallace, 6 and 2. 22 minutes, Isaiah Joe, 6 points, 2 threes. I'll read through these guys' advanced roster number on Basketball Monster. Caruso, 32. Wiggins, 59. Dort, 44. Wallace, 32. Joe sits at 4. But those other 4 names, that means they're just rostered in way too many leagues. Sure, streamable for them today, no problem. But 32, 59, 44, 32 as roster percentages, there is no way that these guys should just be held in 12-team rosters. They're stream throwable, but that's it. Nothing more than that. Meaning that some people are holding, it's harsh to call it dead weight, but it's maybe more accurate to call it unoptimized weight. There's a phrase for you. On the other side of the equation, the Wolves. Still without Randall and DiVincenzo, we talked about those guys. They're going to return soon. They benched, it sounds harsh, they moved Nickeil Alexander-Walker to the bench, and Jalen Clark started, and holy crap, Jalen Clark. 18 minutes, 14 points, 2 threes, 4 steals. You go, Josh, why are you getting excited? 2 reasons. A, he's just a guy that missed all of his rookie season with a torn Achilles. Yeah, he shot 86% here. That's not a real number. But he didn't play 18 minutes because he was a spot starter like some other guys are. He played those minutes basically all in the first half. He copped a whack in the third quarter and didn't return with neck pain. He was flying. Now, of course, when DiVincenzo and Randall and even Gobert, who are all out here, return, it's going to change a lot of this stuff up. But Clark, Terrence Shannon Jr., which someone told me goes by TJ Shannon. Let's go. TJ Shannon, Rob Dillingham, these sort of players, just interesting contributors. He was a guy coming out of UCLA, Jalen Clark, who had an incredibly high steal rate, and it's carried over. Just an impressive... I've said this multiple times already this season, I think I have. Just think DeAnthony Melton. That's the sort of like, oh my God. The fantasy permanent upside is there. Not sure it ever comes together with shooting and usage, but it's there. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, again, moved to the bench, but with Clark getting hurt, ended up with 34 minutes, 18, 2-2 with 4-3. It's been a really good run from him. It's not likely to continue, but he's streamable. Goose had 29-10-7, with 4 threes. Anthony Edwards, 39 minutes, just monster minutes. Horrible from the field, great from the line. After that little run of being a top 5 player, he's fallen back to being like a third-round guy. Naz Reid, the Wizard of Noz, 40 minutes for Reid, 22-11 with 3 threes and 4 blocks, 33% shooting. Now, Reid is one of those guys where I want to like him, and I do like him, and I want to always say positive things about Naz Reid because he's a very fun and good player. But he's the sort of player who gets so many double-ended, backhanded, Danish script, Turkish back, whatever. People rusty trombone this man like crazy. There is going to be think pieces about, man, they just need to bench Gobert, or why don't they just get rid of Julius Randle, let Reid cook? He's going to get so much money. But every time, the individual numbers, 22-11, 3 threes, 4 blocks is great. We love that for fantasy. That's unbelievable numbers. But just go and have a look at the Timberwolves and their net rating since they lost like Randall and DiVincenzo, since Reid was pushed into a more prominent role. It went from like 5 to 2. And this happened in the playoffs last year. Just bench Gobert, Reid can do all this stuff. No. While he looks flashy, he puts up good numbers, the overall impact on him on teams, I believe, over many years has proven to be like, yeah, not quite there. And the numbers are great. He is doing a phenomenal job lifting this team when guys are out and carrying stuff. But overall, I don't think that he is this high level guy that sounded just so weird, high level guy that is being like completely restricted. It just shows to me that whenever he is the guy that is in a larger role, the team performs worse. Now, there are arguments either way. You could say, well, that's because Josh, there's then ends up being no backup behind him because he's doing this stuff, and when those other guys are playing, he comes in and provides the strong numbers off the bench, and that's true. But a lot of the advanced stuff doesn't like sort of lean into that, and it accounts for that stuff, and it doesn't always work in his favor. All that is to say is, while Reid is putting up good numbers, I don't think there's any shot in hell that he's playing this sort of role when Gobert/Randall return. Just no way at all. Mike Conley played 31 minutes, in fact, 9, 2, and 5, which is fine. It's streamable, but Dante's coming back. And use Conley as like a streaming sort of a guy, and that's it. And the same with Jaden McDaniels, who was very good here, apart from the shooting. He, Reid, and Edwards all shot under 40%, which is going to make it very hard to win. He had 17 and 13. It's been a very strong ramp up from Jaden. We don't drop him at all. And that's not at all. We don't drop him for now. We just see how the impact, because that is big impact coming back. 3 starters, Randall, DiVincenzo, Gobert, all need to be reintegrated here. And it's going to have impacts right across the board. It has to. There's no way around that, to be honest. It has to have an impact in many different directions. As much as we might want it, or you might sit there and go, it has to, and Reid is way more fun, and Gobert stinks, and Randall sucks, and I can get behind some of that. That's just, I don't think, how Chris Finch is going to run this. I don't think that's a realistic way of looking at the value of how these players work and how a team is going to implement it as we move forward. I don't think there's any real reality in sitting with that. So the Wolves, for example, are 1-4 in their past 5 games. Has it been a tough schedule? Sure. Cleveland, Milwaukee, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Thunder. But if you want to be a good team, you've got to go more than 20% winning. And yeah, they're not going to be able to continue to roll with that sort of a lineup. Let's do lines of the night. The monstrous. Tough one, but we do go with Cade Cunningham. 38, 7 rebounds, 12 assists, and 3 blocks. Fantastic. Your waiver wire line of the night is also your young gun of the night. Because Zach Ricochet, he cooked. 19 and 6, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. I loved the minutes though. He played 31 of them. He had already been sort of trending upwards. And I don't mind a grab of him, even though the Hawks don't have a strong schedule this week. Because 31 minutes is probably enough to just be a hold as a player. The Rookie of the Year frontrunner, though, he's the dud of the night. I don't think you've seen a game that bad for a while from a player. 2 points, 10% shooting, and 2 assists with no defensive stats or no rebounds for Steph Castle. And those last 2 games, absolutely horrific. You know that I don't believe in Castle as a extraordinarily strong fantasy player. And the thought was that maybe the role and usage would bump without Wemby. And it has not. So we're in a stage with him where it does become pretty tough to justify a must roster. I'd probably like to hold and see what happens next game. But if he's still playing 22 minutes off the bench, that's just not going to cut it, is it? But what is going to cut it is me cutting the ass out of this show because we're done. That's it. It's over. We're wrapped up and we'll be back tomorrow with more stuff. And right now, what you can do if you are missing out on the loveliness of this show, just hit a thumb. That'll be great. That might extend the show. Who knows? You never know. Hit a comment down below. More importantly, though, keep yourselves feeling good. Don't get into petty fights. What's the point? Don't get into petty worries. What's the point? Just keep things rolling. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.